afternoon. My name is Dave Foster. I'm with a company called the Exchange Resource Group, coming to you here on the Green Network. And we're going to be speaking today about a topic that I deal with every day and yet still is a relatively unheard of but incredibly powerful practice and tool for your real estate investing. It's called the 1031 Tax Deferred Exchange in reference to Section 1031 of the IRS Code. And if that hasn't already put you to sleep, then hang on, you may make it through this free sample class that we're teaching. When you join the Green Club, you'll have the opportunity to access not only this, but also several full multi-hour teachings on the uses of the 1031 exchange, the power of it, how it can make you a better real estate investor over the length of your lifetime. Internal Revenue Service Code 1031 says that a 1031 exchange is blah, 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 blah. You don't have to pay tax on the sale of your investment real estate. It's basically a process, but at the end of the day, rather than you paying the tax on the sale of your real estate, you get to use that tax in a deferred manner indefinitely to advance your own investing. And if that sounds intriguing to you, the thought of using the government's money or OPM, other people's money, in this case, government taxes, then stay with us. With the 1031 exchange, instead of paying that tax, you're going to defer that, and you're going to use it yourself. Now, what is so powerful about that? Certainly, if I made a bunch of money on the sale of a piece of real estate, then I would love to not have to pay tax if I could. But here's the multi-year and multi-generational power of this. I want to take you through a brief exercise so that you can start to see how startlingly powerful this is. We're going to start with two investors who are going to do everything exactly the same, except for one thing. And that is that one of them, investor B, is going to pay the tax on every real estate sale as he moves forward. Investor A is going to use 1031 exchanges, and he's going to defer the tax. And as the statute mentioned, that means that investor A is going to be able to take the deferred tax and use it to build their own portfolio. So if each one of them had a property that they were selling with $100,000 in gain, investor B is going to pay, let's say 20% at a capital gains rate of federal and state, and they're going to end up paying $20,000 in taxes. Now, that means they still made $80,000 in cash profit. That's a nice thing to have. They're going to be able to purchase with that money another $400,000 worth of real estate. But take a look at investor A, who's going to access a 1031 exchange to make this sale. So when they do not pay tax on the $100,000 in profit. So their tax paid is zero. So after the sale, then they have $100,000, which used as a 20% down payment allows them to buy a $500,000 piece of property. So hopefully that will set the stage for you. And now let's take this further into the next time when they're both ready to sell. Once again, investor B is going to pay the taxes as they go, so they don't owe any taxes. Investor A is once again going to defer that tax and do another 1031 exchange. So this time we start to see a separation in the leverageability of the money that they have left. Investor B, owing no taxes, is able to purchase a property around $440,000. Investor A is able, using the tax deferred taxes as well as the net proceeds of their sale, to purchase a property worth almost $700,000. I think you're starting to see the picture. Year 10, investor A is now able to control almost $1 million in real estate, although they owe a bunch of taxes that are deferred for them by virtue of the 1031 exchange. Investor B, on the other hand, owes no taxes. They're able to purchase a property worth almost $500,000. But the shocking difference in return that you can make after a $400,000 purchase or $1 million purchase, you can certainly imagine in terms of net operating income. If you extend this example all the way out to, say, year 20, which is, the end of a good, normal investing career, after 20 years of working it hard, you want to slow down a little bit. It's time to start thinking about how that money's going to work for you. But what money is it that you have to work with? Investor B doesn't owe any taxes. Investor B has $800,000 in real estate. If they're making a 10% return on their investment, they're making about $80,000 a year in net cash that they can use to enhance their retirement or to continue investing if they want. But certainly that's pretty nice war chest to have for whatever you want your next stage of life to be. And if you look at the far right column, you'll see that they've paid $106,000 in tax along the way. That's quite a bit of tax, actually, isn't it? Now, Investor A, on the other hand, has not paid a penny of that tax. They still owe it. But look at what Investor A is able to control and to generate income off of, simply because they took the opportunity at each point to sell and do a 1031 exchange. Investor A is now in control of $3.6 million of real estate. If they're able to generate a 10% return on that, they're making $360,000 a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I would much rather try to retire on $360,000 a year than I would on $80,000 a year. That's the power of the 1031 exchange. Now, people typically will come to me at that point and say, but you still have to pay the tax sometime, don't you? Well, remember, that tax is going to be deferred indefinitely. And if you go to my class, which you'll find on the courses available drop-down menu under 1031 exchanges, you'll actually find several strategies to not only defer that through your life, but actually eliminate it at several points in time. Another great reason to join Green and take a look at the education that we've got to provide for you. So back to Investor A. But Dave, isn't Investor A going to have to pay those taxes someday? Okay, maybe. But even if they do, at $360,000 a year of net income, it's going to take them, about 4 months to pay off all the taxes that were pent up over the year. And at the end of that 4 months, they're still going to be making $360,000 a year. And Investor B, who paid the taxes they went along, is still only making $80,000 a year. Now, that's what the 1031 exchange can do for you. There's some very strict, rigid, basic requirements for the 1031 exchange, but in essence, you need to know this going into it, and that is that the process for completing a 1031 exchange is absolutely no different than what you normally do. You buy a piece of real estate, you hold it for investment. When you're ready to sell, the 1031 exchange is reflecting on your closing settlement statement. The proceeds go into escrow with your qualified intermediary. More about them in a second. And then you go find the new property you want to buy and you purchase it. Now, that's exactly what you're going to be doing anyways, isn't it? You buy investment property, you hold it, you sell investment property, and you buy new investment property. So the process itself is absolutely no different. It's no more difficult. But in the middle of it, there are some requirements that you have to meet. Section 1031 exchanges are only available for investment real estate. From the day that you close your sale, you've got 45 days to identify your potential replacements. You have 180 days to complete the entire process. You have to use the services of what is called a qualified intermediary. The taxpayer who sells the old property has to be the same as the taxpayer that purchases the new property. And there's some reinvestment requirements. You have to purchase at least as much as you sell in order to defer all tax, and you have to use all of the proceeds from the 1031 sale in the next purchase. So within those 6 requirements, you can imagine there's a lot of nuance, and it's very easy to run afoul of them. And again, we discussed these at a much greater depth inside the class on 1031 exchanges. But I wanted to give you just a broad brushstroke on the 1031 process today. Properties held for investment, 2 timing requirements, and most importantly, you have to use the services of a qualified intermediary. A 1031 exchange is not a DIY project. It's required by law, and that intermediary has to be in place prior to your sale. So if you're just now watching this, starting to think about maybe selling that property next week or next month or next year, this is the perfect time for you to begin your 1031 education. There's many ways that 1031 exchanges can be used. You can take several investment properties that you have and consolidate them into one larger investment property. You can take larger properties or single properties and do 1031 exchanges to buy many properties that are located in all sorts of regions and of types and sizes. Yeah, and because it only requires that it be investment property, you can sell residential and buy commercial. You can sell industrial and buy raw land as long as it's used for investment. It all qualifies for a 1031 exchange. And of course, in the example of investor A and investor B that we looked at earlier, how easy is it to position your portfolio such that you're generating a lot of revenue every year from deferred tax dollars that you get to use for your own self throughout your retirement? 1031 exchange, an incredibly powerful tool. You got to use a qualified intermediary. You can learn an awful lot more about it in the greenhouse courses available, 1031 exchange. I look forward to seeing you there. Is there anybody out there that might have a question at this point in time?
Dave, I continue to be amazed at this opportunity for anyone doing buy and hold to not use the 1031. Quite frankly, it's a huge mistake to not use it. It makes all the sense in the world.
I got to tell you, it's one of those things where it's not publicized very well, but you can imagine the IRS has to let you do it.
Yeah,
but
only
they don't want
begrudgingly,
you.
I'm sure.
That's exactly right. Yeah. But interestingly enough, this has been part of the tax code since 1920.
Wow. Huh.
So it's one of those things where in recent years it's become very user-friendly, and we're out spreading the word because I think I use them myself, and we've seen its power in our lives and in our investing career.
Believe it. We believe it. Well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate the time, and we will look forward to seeing you next month, and talk to you later, okay?
That's awesome. Thank you so much.